ThePrint off the cuff. Celebrations partner Paul John Visitor Centre. Hospitality partner Four Seasons Hotel Bengaluru. Associate partner Teamology.
So after a 3-year break because of COVID, Off the Cuff is back on ground. We did it online for some time. Now we are back on ground and we are doing two things. One, you have a guest who's much younger than our usual off-the-cuff guest. Because most people tend to be politicians, and unless they are sons and daughters of somebody, in which case usually we don't take one at a time, we take 2 or 3. Like I think we had Jyotiraditya Scindia and Sachin Pilot together, right? Because one had not quite made the stature. Or we have older politicians or older people. So we only get younger people when it's a sports person or a film star. So Nikhil Kamath is everything, and a sports person and a cricket star and a film star rolled into one. So that's one. The second thing is why resume from Bangalore or Bengaluru. So this is something, it's an old line that I used to use about Mumbai and Delhi. And if you go to the website of RIL, you will find a little speech I had delivered when Dhirubhai Ambani passed away. So they had invited me to come and speak also. And I had said that Delhi and Mumbai are 2 different sovereign republics, which haven't yet established diplomatic relations. And why are they so different? Because in Mumbai, you make money from entrepreneurship and buy power with it. In Delhi, you get power from politics and get money with it. Dhirubhai Ambani straddled both the worlds. So nobody could quite figure him. Now I will take it one step forward. And that is that India now has 3 sovereign republics: Delhi, Mumbai and Bengaluru. And the 3 haven't established diplomatic relations yet. And for ThePrint, resuming off the cuff on ground from Bengaluru is a step in that direction. Because I think Delhi has to understand Bengaluru better, as everybody has to understand everybody better. And Bengaluru is now a great engine of the India story or the Bharat story as it is. And who can be a better brand ambassador for it than Nikhil? So Nikhil, you got everything right to be a star in the tech/startup entrepreneurial universe, starting with being a school dropout. Because American guys are mainly college dropouts. You are a school dropout. How often are you reminded of that?
I don't think I got everything right. I think the last time we caught up, when we stayed up for quite a few hours and spoke about life, and I was asking you all these questions, I was resonating with your story to such a great extent. But I feel like my life has been a happy, consequential line of accidents, which have luckily net turned out okay. But it hasn't been, I would say, all good all the way. But yeah, today if I were to look back at life, I don't think I'd want to play it out any other way.
Yeah, you've had some setbacks from the family front lately.
Yeah.
That must have tested you.
Yeah, I feel like when you spend a large chunk of your life, I'm 37 today. I mean, I sound stupid when I say that from a relative lens, but when you've spent a significant portion of those 37 years, I do the same job today that I've been doing for the last 20 years. In a very capitalistic pursuit, and something that you can't control happens, a couple of things happen together. It gets you to start rethinking about life, first principles, try and figure out what is going on. Are you doing the right thing? Should you be living differently? Should you believe in different things even?
So what are the first principles? It's the first time I've heard this 37-year-old talk about first principles. It's a new one.
First principles, my understanding of life's first principles. This will sound like really depressing, but I feel like when you think about life deeply, eventually you arrive at the conclusion that nothing truly has meaning. There is no higher purpose. You're an animal like every other animal on the planet.
But animals also have higher purpose, right? I mean,
Yeah. One could argue procreation is their purpose or higher purpose.
besides other things, yes.
Yeah, so in a very nihilistic form of thinking, I think where I sit today.
I mean, since you talked animals and you said procreation, if you look at a lion, procreation is a purpose, but that has to be accompanied by room service for food, right? Because lion himself doesn't go and hunt.
Yeah.
It's the lioness and others who are supposed to do it. And also generally not disturb him when he's sleeping. So there can be, the purpose of life, even for an animal, can't just be procreation.
Agree with you. Yeah. Yeah, so in a very nihilistic way, I believe like life truly, when you think about it, has no meaning. And to be happy, to live life, you have to deceive yourself into believing whatever you're doing has meaning. So I'm working on my deceptions today, and I feel like I'm deceiving myself.
So do you have a spiritual guru, or are you your own spiritual guru?
No, it's like blatant plagiarism. I like I like a bunch of books, and whatever resonates with me from each one of these books becomes my version of that.
So what has resonated from one of these books with you lately? Tell us about that.
Lately, I've been thinking that, I've constantly been doing stuff. I'm not saying necessarily productive. It could be watching a Netflix show for 20 hours or whatever. I've realized I do that because I'm not able to cope with boredom. All good philosophy seems to suggest that the path to some kind of evolution mentally passes through boredom. And today, the latest thing I'm kind of trying to do is I'm trying to be bored and not feel guilty about being bored or unnerved by boredom. So I want to be bored and I want to be happy about being bored.
Tell us about some of the books you've read lately, and if you have any takeaways from them, or something that's waiting on your shelf to be read. And I will tell you about something that sat on my side for almost 2 years before being read. And when I read it, I thought it was the best thing I read.
Off late, what have I read? I have a book with me. I'm traveling on Sunday. I'm going to Ananda for a week. So I have 1 week of solo time to kill. So I have this Western Guide of Philosophy. What is the name of the author? It's a large book, 800 pages. Robert something, I think. My plan to read is that. Finish as much as I can. I think it goes from pre-Socrates to Plato, Aristotle.
How do you keep attention spans? I find it tough to keep attention spans and stuff like that.
You can get distracted as long as you have enough incentive to come back to it. This is one thing I realized in life, a realization that might be true to me or might resonate with others, is reading for me alleviates anxiety. I feel like if the curiosity in me is being fed with something, it could be junk. But as long as I have a book in front of me, I might be reading it or pretending to read it. But the effort put towards consuming a book in itself alleviates anxiety for me. And when I'm feeling unnerved in life and I'm feeling a little bit on the edge, I feel like reading a book makes me feel better.
So that's a quotable quote. When in trouble, read a book. Usually you would not expect a New Age guru to give you that advice.
Please don't call me a New Age guru.
No. I'm saying if you went to a New Age, you are not a guru. You are a guru in many other things, but not like this. But if you go to a guru, usually guru will not say, unless the guru says, read my book. Right? That I've seen gurus do. So when you dropped out of school, what did your parents and friends say?
I think they had given up on me by then.
Did your friends cancel you as it's done?
No. Parents had given up hope by then. I think, once you cross away a certain child. You have children, right? You have like 1, 2, 3, whatever. And you're like too cross. By then, I think I was crossed out. They didn't care that much. But jokes aside, I feel for somebody from my upbringing, I come from a certain kind of family, a certain construct, which is very South Indian in its thinking. All my cousins, and I have a lot of them. My mother has 7 siblings and my father had a couple. They're all like, they've studied somewhere, did a PhD, they're working at Intel and stuff like that. So it was a big thing for them. But I feel like they coped with it better than many other parents in their position. I don't know why. I think they just had some kind of gumption. They had blind faith.
But your friends, because you make friends in school, you make friends in school bus. Did they drop off?
No, they did not.
These are real life questions.
Yeah. No, they did not. I felt insecure about them going to college. When you drop out, right, and you start working, you get access to money faster than your friends. There's a very nuanced psychological thing.
Don't let your children hear it, anybody, those of you who have children, because this is incentivizing kids to drop out of school. Explain that.
Yeah, I feel like the psychology behind it is very interesting. So my first job when I was 17 used to pay me a certain amount of money, 8,000 rupees, 9,000 rupees.
What was the job?
In a call center. I used to work in a call center called 24/7 in Bangalore, selling accidental health insurance for a company called Stonebridge, the UK shift. So say between 4 p.m. to 1 a.m., 2 a.m. kind of thing. Yeah, but the interesting thought in this for me, at 17, I was feeling really good about myself because I had a wage. I had access to more money than my friends had access to at that point of time. And I've been precociously greedy all of my life for, I don't know what the word is, freedom, independence, whatever you might call it, financial independence as well. So you feel good from 17 to 21, 22 while your friends are at college. You start feeling unnerved when your friends graduate college and get their first job. Because there is societal stigma around a job which does not have an entry barrier. It could be any job. Call center job did not require a degree. It did not require expertise or proficiency of a certain kind. So societal stigma is there. It's never, you can be in a call center earning 1 lakh rupee a month. But if your son is a doctor earning 25,000 rupees a month, doctor gets more societal acceptance. So 22, 23, when my classmates graduated and they started becoming doctors and engineers, and I used to be in science background, then you start feeling a little conscious. But I think by the time we were all 25, I had that 7-8 year runway in life where I had been doing 1 or 2 things for a certain amount of time. So I had grown in that own bucket, and that bucket is very relative. Beyond a point, you're comparing yourself to your peer group, no matter how the peer group was created. So it didn't ever hurt me psychologically in the manner that it might have hurt many others, because the circumstances were conducive to me doing what I was doing at that point of time. Today, if I had to reenact it, it would be different.
And then you became, I don't know, somebody might get up and say, no, that's not quite true, but almost like, I'd say, India's youngest billionaire.
Yeah, I feel like this is the last thing anybody should say so close to an election. But
so watch the dump of data that Election Commission has put out now at State Bank of India and check, right?
Yeah, but it's not real money. Like I said, like virtually, if my friend here in the first row were to start a company and I buy 0.01% of his company paying $1,000 for it, that makes his company worth $1 billion. So while you were talking about Bombay, Delhi and Bangalore as 3 different sovereign nations, perhaps, republics, Bangalore has the most paper wealth and very little expendable wealth. That's why you see the character traits which are very different. Like we were at an event recently together, and if you were to look at people from each of these three places, you will see that stark difference. And another difference Bangalore has from Bombay and Delhi is the paper rich from here made money in tech companies, and tech companies have no cash. And one will realize that with more cash, people are more cavalier with their spending patterns, I would say. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you have paper money, you also know that if you take out more cash, then the paper money value goes down. Because word spreads that so and so is selling his shares.
Correct.
Selling their shares, I should say his shares. I have a very young newsroom. I'll be.
Yeah, paper money is complicated. Paper money gives you the appearance of wealth without the generic stuff that wealth brings with it.
Yeah, but it also brings great power. Again, at a young age, great power and great responsibility. It's tough to balance.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Let me put it this way. The son of a king knows he's going to be king one day.
Well, not Prince Harry.
Yeah.
So, in fact, there was a tweet from, I think it was an American from California, who said the Princess of Wales has gone missing. The spare prince is in exile. The king is trying to cure his cancer with herbs. If this was the 1300s, the French would be preparing to invade. Right? So a prince is not always sure of becoming the king.
Yeah, agreed. I thought I'll make a joke in the Indian context, but let me not.
In the Indian context, if I take you back, you had to have 6 or 8 sons for one to have a real genuine odds of becoming king. But he had to kill the remaining 5 before he got there.
Shekhar, at the end of this, whatever you think will get me into trouble, please cut. Yeah, but getting back to what I was saying, I feel like a king's son grows up, goes to school. People around him know he is going to be king. So they prep him consciously and subconsciously how to be king, how to play the role of being a king. So he's innately ingrained with the nuances, the personality style, the philosophies of being a king. So I think he's better equipped for that high in life. People like me who stumble upon something like this, we don't take ourselves as seriously as people around us suddenly begin to take us. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I feel like in that careless, unprepared role that I fell upon or we fell upon, I would have done a bunch of stupid things. Yeah. Please don't ask me for what the stupid things are.
Just tell us about a couple we are trying to get in trouble.
No, just random stupid things. Yeah. Like, I think even said stuff or did stuff, thinking in my mind for it to be a joke. But how my jokes were perceived 5 years ago were perceived differently then, or how my opinion was perceived. 5 years prior, nobody cared. And then suddenly people cared. I think I took longer to realize that people care. And there was a lag in between that time, which probably is something I should have been better prepared for. I mean, even today I'm saying stupid things. So maybe I'm not there yet.
Now, those of you who are new to Off the Cuff, this is not like a TV discussion where I talk with him for 2 hours and then last 10 minutes I'll say I'll take 3 questions. It's not like that. It's a conversation. So while we go on talking, at any point of time, you have an intervention or you have a question to ask, please raise your hand and I will stop and let you speak. And please introduce yourselves because we are recording this. So go ahead.
I have many questions for you.
Anytime. As I said, I'm a journalist. I'm never off the record. People can be off the record with me and I'll keep that confidence, but I'm never. my dharma is to not be off the record. So I say what I say.
Yeah.
God be my witness. That said, you were chief guest at Bangalore University's convocation.
Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking.
I mean, the irony wasn't lost on you.
No.
What did you tell the students? Because all of these guys, Bill Gates and all, they have, all of these guys have those speeches.
Yeah, I mean, I
stay
told...
stupid, stay curious, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Stay hungry. What did you say?
So they really wanted me to write a speech. And I have no experience with speeches, right? Like, I'm pretty much always blabbering the thing on the top of my mind. So I sat down. They reminded me 5 or 10 times. I sat down, made the effort to write a speech. It was about the education system, and they were all PhD students. So I'm already feeling like an idiot being there, right? I'm like, what can me, who has not read 1/10 of what they have, tell them that they don't know about already? So usually in life, I have like ample amounts of imposter complex from the beginning in itself. You take me and put me there, this has gone to another level. So I started reading out my speech and I looked at the audience and nobody was paying attention. So then I was like, yes. Like now it actually doesn't matter what I'm saying. So I said a bunch of like really random things, thanked people on the stage who were sitting with me and walked away.
Was the media there?
I think so, yeah.
But what is the most, what do you think is the stupidest thing you said? And then I will tell you whether it was stupid or not.
I have critiqued the media at times without really thinking it through. I'm like, when I think back to it, I've said, like journalism is dying. Most people are saying...
Look, I've been a journalist for 45 years. For 45 years, I've heard everybody saying journalism is dying. But journalists are like cockroaches. or journalism is like a cockroach.
Yeah.
It will never die.
Yeah.
It keeps coming back from some crevice or the other. That's how it works. So did you say in that convocation, journalism is dying?
No, not at that convocation. But otherwise, I was thinking, I have many stupid things I've said.
Yeah. So what did you say at that convocation that you remember?
I said...
Because you have to say something, na? ऐसे करो, ऐसे बनो, झूठ नहीं बोलो, सच बोलो, माँ बाप की इज्जत करो, स्कूल में पढ़ाई करो, कॉलेज में पढ़ाई करो, drop out नहीं करो, क्या बोलो? Everybody has to give advice. I mean, I have that challenge when people invite me for convocation speeches. What will I say?
Yeah. Let me close my journalism thoughts so nobody writes nonsense about me tomorrow. Like self-preservation is little higher today than it was a few years ago. I feel like journalism is not dying. I feel like the need for journalism is bigger today than it ever was, right? Like newspapers might have been around for thousands of years. I want to know what is happening in the world. But the manner in which it has been reported over the last few years, that to me is dying. I feel like the youth, to a certain extent, I feel like I speak for the youth of our country, which like every generation tends to be smarter than the generation before them. To that ecosystem, I feel like they're losing faith in the journalism of the last few years. Like when we spoke about this the other day, right?
This was a conversation that went into early hours of the morning at his home and attained higher levels of spirituality as we went along through the night.
So when Shekhar speaks about journalism, he is so passionate. It's like speaking like as if somebody were in the army and served in a certain war. It's like a higher calling. It's a passion. I think that is far removed from the journalism of today, where people write things which are directly proportional to the number of views that might give them. And also the negative feedback loop in society is so big today that if you say something nasty about someone, more people will click it than when you say something nice or something objective about someone. That's what I meant when I said journalism in the manner that it is being practiced in today is not resonating to the audience I think I speak for.
And he's saying it on Instagram. Now, I'm not an Instagram user. right? I don't even know my password. But I've now checked out his Instagram page. You are a source of news for so many young people, and they seem to trust you more than they trust a conventional news source.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, these things are such touchy subjects. I get worried before I say anything.
No, you stop getting worried. Leave the
I
worrying
feel,
to us who take ourselves so seriously. You should take yourself so seriously.
I know, agreed. I feel like journalism which sits behind a editorial enterprise which is too large, which is very homogeneous in the manner of speaking, and there is no room for individuality in that, is bound to not resonate with the youth of today who like to look at two contrarian opinions and arrive at what they think of a certain issue. And I feel like the journalism of tomorrow which will work will be more fragmented in nature. This is my personal belief. So yeah, to some extent, I consider myself a journalist as well. I might be journaling one day a month, the life of entrepreneurs, friends who I've known a long time. And I try to do that in the most candid manner that I know how.
Any questions? Please raise your hands at any point. Sunil, in front. Wait for the microphone to come to you. Same rules as BIC, Sunil. Sunil organized a wonderful conversation at BIC.
So, you mentioned that the people at your age tend to look up to you and to others who have contrarian opinions. And so far, I've made it a habit of talking to youngsters in Starbucks or coffee shops or airports or anywhere, bus stops. And invariably, the data that I get is the WhatsApp University.
Yeah.
And the WhatsApp University isn't necessarily people like yourself. Mm-hmm. It's some joker who decides that this is something he wants to put across there. The more contrarian, so Shekhar Gupta is a homosexual. Chalo, dalo. 10 people agree, and then that becomes the news rage of the thing. I may become, by the way, at this stage. And that's the way I've never seen them use their mind. And I'm talking about guys who, go to those Intel types companies, and get paid 2 crore salaries, whatever. Mm. And they are not really caring to use their mind.
Yeah.
Partly because they, like you said, they don't buy into any of the so-called independent journalism except maybe Shekhar's organization. Maybe because of that. But they don't seem to care. Do you think they care?
I care.
You care.
I care, and I think I know a lot of people who care as well. I want to know the truth about the world because I mold myself as a person based on the truths that I'm fed. And I think it's supremely important that the person on the other side is giving me the story he most believes in. I don't know about which generation in particular you are speaking of, but
25 to 40.
Yeah, I would even
25 to 45.
I would even go so far to say that the generation 25 and under,
they're absolutely different, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even understand that language anymore.
Yeah, but
they're lovely people, but they don't seem. I mean, the desire to think deeply somehow isn't as strong as I remember. People at my college when I used to be in college or school.
Yeah.
We wanted to ask questions. What is life, or what some stupid question or the other, much like your nihilistic view of life, and they don't seem to care.
But I see a lot of potential in that age group. Yeah.
But I will just tell you something.
May I make you a challenge?
That just last evening.
Can you make organizations like ThePrint become as big as the Times of India used to be?
Yeah.
Something that people trust. So I'll tell you the big thing that I heard from everybody. They do not trust anything that they see in print. or on television. Television to chhod do.
No,
It's
not
like a
in-
bloody
You're not
Bollywood
talking
movie.
of ThePrint. You're talking of publications in general.
No, in
I
print.
know.
I said not the
Yes.
print. In print. That means, Times of India, Indian Express, blah blah blah. They just don't buy it. I mean, I don't buy I read the Economist and say, who's this guy? Has he ever actually gone to the villages of India?
Yeah.
He's talking utter crap.
Yeah. But they believe in people. So even if they don't believe in the print publication, I'm not saying they don't, they love it, but they will believe in Shekhar Gupta if they resonate with his manner of thinking. So that's why the thing I was trying to make, my point was that journalism is such an important thing, and when it becomes more fragmented, will resonate with the younger population even more. Because I will like an individual over an editorial organization or a big behemoth which is defining
So
the...
Shekhar की बारी है, अभी बच्चे पैदा करो और थोड़ा retire हो जाओ. That's what he's saying.
मैंने अपने टाइम में 2 पैदा कर दिए.
बस हो गया.
उसके आगे नहीं होने वाले. That said, the fact is that people do appreciate good journalism when they get it. We are not even paywalled, right? We might go behind a paywall, at least for some content in the next couple of months, but we are not paywalled. And yet, a lot of people do pay. So we have a lot of subscribers. Without a paywall, they don't have to pay, but they pay. So they see some value in good journalism. And many of them are, in fact,
I'm
sitting
a
in
big
the
fan.
audience.
Like, each time I've met Shekhar over the last many years, I've always told him I watched Cut the Clutter this, you said this, that happened.
I have to say that never prompted. So many of our subscribers are here because wherever we do this or any events or any activity, we throw it open to our subscribers. And I'm first of all a very special word of gratitude to our subscribers who are here. I know in Bangalore it's a Friday evening. It's an effort to go any place, but thank you very much for coming in. Question there, sir. Karambir?
Hi, thank you so much, Shekhar, for inviting me. And since you're on the topic of journalism, so I run a media company, and we also have some, podcasts and all that. My suggestion or opinion is that sometimes I feel that have we lost the art of debating? Because many times when you post things online, it becomes there are two ways of talking about the subject. One is talking about the concept, and somebody may have a different opinion than you, and talk about it with statistics, talk about it with knowledge, talk about it with what your opinion is. Don't get personal. Just because the person has an opinion about something, that doesn't mean you are an idiot or whatever. All kinds of colorful words which are spoken below your thing. So how do we improve the art of debating in today's society?
Yeah, I think you want him to answer.
No,
Either,
no,
I mean-
he should answer. I mean, I answer it every day with all the stuff we put out.
I think discourse is so important in any society. I feel like for some reason we have developed this tendency to take personally anyone who does not agree with our opinion of a certain thing. But historically, I feel like all evolution or so much of progress has happened when two opposing thoughts have been expressed in a common forum. I think, George Orwell wrote this really nice book. He talks about doublethink. There is no reason that if I believe in a certain thing, I can't believe in another thing while believing in something which is contrarian to it. Now imagine two people who are practicing doublethink at the same time were to sit. You can go around and discourse all day long, but at the end of that, if nobody is getting offended, I feel like the underlying thought is more evolved than where you began, and that should be encouraged in society.
So in the old-fashioned way in the armed forces, I mean, not all generals do it, but the convention is that when you plan an operation, you also set up within your own team an enemy team. And the enemy team then responds. It mimics the response that your actual enemy might have. And then you figure out whether what I'm doing is going to work or not. I said in real life, many generals don't do it because they are the generals, right? So how can I set up a team of people junior to me who can beat me in this? And if you read the books about Kargil, for example, there is a wonderful book written by Shuja Nawaz, Crossed Swords. It's one of the finest books on contemporary history of Pakistan. Shuja Nawaz's brother Asif Nawaz was also army chief of Pakistan. So he mentions in that book that when they planned the operation in Kargil, they did a staff check. So they had a bunch of young officers responding as they imagined India might respond. And their responses were not that different from the way India responded. But the generals tossed them out. And they're nonsense. We have planned this, so this will work. So the other opinion was not given respect, and that is what led to disaster. And that happens often enough, and that happens in all our lives. That's why you must have people, my learning in life is, you must have people around you who will tell you, listen, what you're talking is not correct, or what you're going to do is not correct. And I live my life as I live my life, and I write what I speak. So I did write once that one of the weaknesses in the Modi system is that there aren't enough people around him, and increasingly fewer, who can tell him that, sir, what you're doing is perhaps not right. Because if that was the case, somebody should have stopped him from wearing that suit to that outing with Obama, with his name engraved on it, right? Somebody would have said this suit will not be appropriate. Then he had to do all the correction after that. Some photographers enlarged that suit, that fabric, found his name knitted woven into it. Then they had to auction that suit, etc., etc. But this could have easily been handled if there was somebody on the staff saying maybe this is not the right thing to do. So everybody needs people. The more powerful you become, the more lonely you become.
And you also have LB staff in the local.
Well, that's okay. That's a brand thing. So I'm not judgmental about brands. So you can have any brand, but this is public life. This is politics, and so you need any leadership. You have people in your company who tell you, "Ye bakwas hai, ye don't do this," and what happens to them when they say that to you?
Nothing. My colleagues are here. They say this to me every day.
So how many times do you hear it in a day?
Like all day long. It's a problem nowadays. They tell me in the morning you screwed up, afternoon, evening.
Insubordination ho raha hai, right?
Yeah, but to your earlier point, I'll say this. I'm not political by a mile, right? I have nothing to do with politics, never have, will likely never have in the future as well.
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never, I guess. But the one thing I do appreciate about the incumbent government, I feel like all of life is relative at the end of the day. If the two of us are sitting on stage, you are good relative to me in a very subconscious manner because people organically compare everything, right? There's a peer group for everything and people fall into different places. The one thing I do appreciate about the policies of the incumbent government, let me say, Machiavelli once said, generosity is very self-defeating. If a very generous king were to come into power, and he were to go out and give money away, pretty soon he would have to increase taxes. And then the same people who were happy when he first gave money away will become angry, and then there will be a need to change. I'm such a big proponent of capitalism, and I'm against this fallacy that if we were to give benefits and be very generous with the resources of our country net will be in a better place in the next decade or 2 decades. So for them championing the cause of capitalism, I really like that.
Okay, although if you see politics in the country, everybody is giving free power, free bus rides, free this, free that. And if you see free power in so many of our states, that is cross-subsidized by industry and by services. So their power becomes too expensive, and so their products become uncompetitive, particularly when it comes to export. So this is what's called broken window economics. That if you break a window, you will buy a new window, somebody will get a job, you will buy new glass, new something, it will go into your economy, you can break it again, you can build it again. So that's called broken window economics, and we have a lot of that in India. So we will not invest in our power system. That's why we have a generator, we have a stabilizer, servo, then our bulbs we fuse. So that's all the broken window business which goes on. And I agree with you, kind of socialism we've had in the past, what was described as socialism was, we've all called it equal distribution of poverty, not equal distribution of riches, but equal distribution of poverty. In the front row, 2 hands in the front row.
Hi, I'm Ashwarya. I'm an educator in Bangalore. Thanks for a kind invite by a friend, which is why I'm here today, sir. It actually gets me very curious when you're talking about journalism and an influencer like Nikhil actually saying I'm a partly journalist as well. Because I've always thought to myself that a journalist or a journalist firm actually reports every incident, and it's to the public to actually create a perspective of that incident. Obviously, in the process, there are various journalists who bring in various perspectives to the table, but it is still up to the public to actually frame their own perspectives. And that's the job of a journalist firm, as a responsibility and the authenticity they have to give back to the public that they own and the job that they do. But today, with influencers holding on to that cap with various platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, or various other places, don't we feel like we're not actually putting the story out, but we're giving perspectives there? But if we also, or if you also hold the cap as a journalist there, suddenly it's going to create such a rush of thought in people as us who are audience. Because in an Instagram world today, if there is one reel that has some kind of content which has 1 million views, it's considered to be true, even though if it's not authentically true. So how do we take responsibility, or how do you take responsibility as an influencer to make sure that you don't send out any kind of content like that which is influencing people but not exactly has the right content?
That's a very good question.
I agree. Yeah.
Because I genuinely feel that today influencers have taken the cap of entrepreneurs, influencers, marketers, digital trend makers, journalists, information givers, and everything. Then what are the others doing?
Yeah.
It's been a strong question that's hitting me, and now that we're discussing, and you did say that, yes, I'm a kind of a journalist one sort, I really want you to introspect and ask yourself, is it true that you're a journalist? Or do you want to be one even after this show?
Yeah, sure. Aishwarya, first thing, do you want to set context to who you are a little bit?
I'm very happy to be called an educator myself because I run a few institutions here.
Right.
And I am a huge user of Instagram myself. And I do publish a lot of my work on Instagram and talk about my work on Instagram. So I consciously want to learn from an influencer like you who wants to become an influencer futurely, to put on my work future, saying that how can I consciously and be a responsible person to make sure every content that goes out there from my profile doesn't become another sort of a popular reel that turns out to become something as a wrong information fed to my audience. I think it's a responsibility that we hold once we have a community of audience.
Yeah, firstly, I agree with you 100%. I think we live...
I will add in context to myself. I am a proud daughter of DK Shivakumar as well, if that makes a full form to the entire answer that you were asking. But I stand alone as a proud educator who loves transforming lives in the process of education and empowerment. And I do my work.
I can add that I've been to your home.
Yeah, thank you, sir. But otherwise, I am an influencer as well. Trying to see you grow and learn from you, which is why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, I also consider your dad a friend, and every interaction I've had with him has been really nice, and we keep in touch. Okay, firstly, I think we do live in a post-truth world. Nobody truly cares about the truth anymore. Especially on social media, I think it is a really big problem. We're all victims and proponents of it in different ways. The problem with putting out news in the most objective manner would be you would have 10 events that happen in a day. There would be 10 lines. Okay, earthquake A happened in place X, political party B won an election, Indian cricket team lost to Afghanistan, and something else. All of life and nuance in life, in my opinion, is in stories. we naturally gravitate towards the story. So if you don't allow for the room for different people to interpret these stories in the manner that resonates with them, news, in my opinion, would be quite boring. I'm not saying anyone should be biased one way or another, but with my upbringing as a Bangalorean, as somebody who's been in finance for the last couple of decades, how I look at a certain problem of Bangalore will be different from Shekhar's opinion because he's from Delhi and he will look at it differently. So interpretations, in my opinion, are good. I want to interpret, say, the problem with a certain flyover in Bangalore in the manner that I know how, from my own upbringing and surrounding and peer group and all of that. But if I were to bias the story in a manner where I make a certain political party look good or a certain one bad, and I have an ulterior motive which is not fed by my own democratic curiosity in a manner, I think that is bad. But I want to be able to interpret India playing Afghanistan in the manner that I know how.
I completely agree. Sorry if I'm taking an extra time, but what I'm trying to say is we as influencers or content creators on various social media platforms can definitely give perspectives. But people can differ from those perspectives, no doubt about it. But we must be very clear with we're giving perspectives and no judgments. Neither are we reporting things in the same manner that it happened because we have our perspective involved in the process of presenting it. That is the clarity that I thought we should have when we as influencers or putting up any kind of content there, because journalists don't do that. When a Times of India print or ANI puts up anything for that matter, they're reporting whatever they're doing in the way it has happened, and we as public learn from it and say, okay, it happened good, it happened bad, that's our problem, our perspective. Of course, there are journalists on the table discussing whether they like it or not. That's my way of I'm influenced by Shekhar sir saying that he likes a certain politician. That's his problem. But a person in the print might not like that politician. That's a journalist as an influencer. But a journalism firm cannot be putting any kind of perspective in place. That's the difference between journalism and influencer and a journalist, is what the educator inside me was just curious.
I think those are
and
profound
thought,
views. I think one thing...
It's my perspective, sir. I can only put in a perspective.
I said these are profound views. I'm not disagreeing. All I'm saying is it's unlikely that you will find me saying or writing anywhere for a politician that I really
I have no connection to... I wouldn't say connection. I have no interest in politics.
You might see them... You might see me saying that about sports people or sometimes about film people. But politicians, because we interact with politicians in a very different way. Because... politicians' lives go through many phases, and politicians' lives are varied and multi-layered and diverse.
No.
So there can be many good things, many not very good things, many fantastic things, many really bad things. So a politician is not a bot. A politician is a very interesting human being.
I take that. As an audience, it was very confusing for me to understand the process, which is why I thought
that's why the first collection of was a selection of my columns, Anticipating India. Those were columns until 2014. The new one will come out, I think, around time the new government is sworn in. And people bring copies for me to sign. I write, enjoy this ride through Indian politics. Nothing is more fun and fair. Because politics is tough.
I wouldn't agree more.
It's tough. It's take no prisoners, but it's also fair. Yeah. So.
As a last thought, a career in politics for somebody as passionate as you is...
Thank you for your perspective. But I'm trying to do what I passionately do.
So what can I do to become an influencer on Instagram? If I were to start using Instagram, Guruji, what should I do?
To be really honest, my Instagram is not like a professional one, right? Like we post something once in a week. It's not like I have millions of followers or anything like that. I'm like content creator one day a month. I shoot one podcast a month. I have not been doing it for too long. So it's been a year.
So how many people know about his podcast and how many have watched it?
See, not that many, 50%.
No. I think some of the others might be a little bit because they might be a little bit shy if I ask them, खड़े होके बताओ उसका नाम क्या है. So if you ask me, I will also say WT bleep, right?
So what's the fuss?
What's the fuss? I know, but I'd still say WT bleep.
I got it on record, so my team sitting in the corner is very happy.
So your tech business, tech bro, startup bro, what is this culture? Where does it come from and what does it mean?
From here only. I think from Bangalore, and we have kind of like picked a lot of this off from some place like maybe SF or something like that. The culture works because, how do I put it? For a company which has just gotten funded, right? A company which is not making profits, something very new, something that a person has conceived very recently, you need a cultural ecosystem where people are willing to work 15, 20 hours a day, be really passionate about it. So to make the narrative of both tech and brotherhood and bring it together, make that really cool is a I think it's like a necessity to allow for an ecosystem like that to thrive.
When you say tech bro, startup bro, why not sisters? Why are there so few women in startup business?
If I were to be honest, and I know Aishwarya is looking at me while I say this, I feel like there isn't that much discrimination when people go out and hire. Like tomorrow, if any company I'm involved in were to put out a job opening for a certain kind of role in technology, if 90% of the applicants happen to be men, I think it is hard for someone to force that company and say, you have to figure out a way to hire a certain amount of women. I think the number of women we have in my team, the companies that I'm part of, is higher than...
No, that's a team, but I'm talking about startup entrepreneurs. Why aren't there more women? Not employees, but employers.
Yeah. It's a tough question. I feel like, look at engineering class. You go to engineering colleges and you look at the proportion of men and women in an engineering class. Typically, you're an engineer if you're attempting a startup, I guess. If a class has 95 boys and 5 girls, the likelihood of a lot of girls starting startups is probably low. I think it's a very cultural thing. There's something wrong with it. I don't think it should be like that.
So there's a STEM gap, you think?
STEM gap being?
STEM, science, technology, mathematics, engineering, that's STEM.
I think so. Like, again, we are talking about all the kind of stuff that I'll get into trouble for saying. Right? Don't say it.
Carry on. No. I will only tell you that Larry Summers got into trouble for saying something on this. Larry Summers was president of Harvard University when he made some observation about women not doing so well in STEM. That is science, technology, engineering, math. And that cost him his job, right?
Yeah.
Because Harvard is too politically correct to countenance something like that.
I don't even think I will go that far, but I think if our engineering college has 95% boys, I think the problem starts there. I don't know why that is.
We don't have 95% boys.
What is the percentage?
We are at 60% and 40% women.
Really?
Yes, I'll give you data.
So-
You can use it in your podcast.
Yeah.
So it's getting better.
Then, okay, this is actually interesting because even I am curious about it. Why do you think so few startup founders, Shekhar's question, are women?
Because we live in a women-men biased society and not in a...
No, wait. Mike.
So I just feel because we don't live anymore in a men or a woman equality problem society. We only live in a men-woman biased society where we just feel that when women take the risk, we just feel, and we are biased already, that they cannot take and balance the job as much as a man can, because the responsibility of a woman at that age, especially at a 25, 24-year-old. Even today, when you call, most of the cases today, when a woman is being called for an interview, if they're at a 25 and a 28-year age, it is data that I'm talking, the first question they ask is, when are you getting married? And what are you going to do post-marriage?
Really?
Yes, it is one of the common questions. If women in the room are here, please back me up on this. If you feel this way, it is one of the questions that's asked, because once you get into a marriage responsibility, it's you who move out of that house, take more responsibility, and take on that responsibility to parallelly move through your professional responsibility, which people already in their mind thinks she can't multitask. Which is why, whether it's a funding, whether it's progress, whether it's problem, it's not happening. Why women are not in the top levels? Sorry if I have taken over a little bit of the show, but why top people are not there in the place? Probably there was not so much of a facility, even like a small thing like a Swiggy or a dishwasher or a washing machine 10 years from now, where women could actually leave their homes and move out and do the jobs and learn like what we women can do today. I can manage my home through holding a phone and switch off the lights and make sure my maid has picked up the grocery and do everything through technology today, which has given me the access to go out and work. Okay, which didn't have probably to a mother or a grandmother of that age, because she was required more at home. Someone has to do the job. If I'm not doing it, someone has to do it. You must have the capacity to get a maid at least to do it, right? Women took on responsibilities like that, which is why they didn't grow then. Today, we are living in a biased society, which probably will change. If you want to become a good economy today, we are 49% of the population of my country. We have to get into the workforce. It's not a need. It's not a want anymore in the country for women to get on the workforce. It's a need. If you don't get there, you will not go there. So you better make sure you provide conditions for women to go out there and work. We should not have any more discussions on that. Yeah, please, sorry if someone else has to add to it.
I agree with her 100%.
And while the microphone goes there, let me slip in a question. You've launched a fund called WTF Fund for
young
entrepreneurs
people
under 22.
Correct.
So do you see so much entrepreneurial talent? You think other people will also drop off from school and become
No, not like that. But I feel like there are so many bright young people out there who, given a little bit of capital, can take an idea much further than they would have been otherwise. And I like this whole, there is a lot of legitimacy to grant making, and of late I have met a bunch of people who have benefited from grants. So we are attempting it.
I have a question.
So how many people have you funded as yet? Under 22?
We tend to do like a couple a month.
A couple of months.
Yeah.
I have a question. Hi, I'm
Please
Vatsala.
introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Vatsala. I work at Kalari. I lead a fund dedicated to fund women founders. It's called...
You should answer her question.
So Kalari Capital has allocated $10 million annually to fund women-led startups. So my question to Nikhil will be that, do you think the percentage of women who get funded is less because the decisions are majorly taken by rooms full of men? Because there's how many VCs are really headed by women? So
yours is.
that's why maybe we are allocating. But
have you funded equal number of male and female oriented startups at Kalari?
No, we didn't. So that's why we allocated a fund dedicatedly.
But why not?
As in?
Like,
No. What he's asking is, why did you, until you created this fund, you created this fund because you saw a problem.
Yeah.
The problem was that that Kalari wasn't funding.
Yes.
Wasn't keeping a male-female balance for funding.
Yeah.
So why was that imbalance existing?
I think that is... Yeah, that is also... That is a combination of a lot of things. Again, all the decisions... in general, there are less women entrepreneurs. There are. But I think, as Aishwarya mentioned, a lot of women who come for funding do not... I'm not defending Kalari, but do not get the dollars because there's a bias that the women who are sort of sitting in the ICs are not ambitious enough.
right.
Okay. Go ahead.
No. It's a very intriguing problem. Like I have a lot of misconceptions around this because I haven't really researched it. Like Aishwarya corrected me. I didn't know that engineering colleges are 60-40.
It's not engineering colleges, it's the entire education system today has gone to 60% men and 40% women.
Which is a good thing, no? Yeah. But I agree with her that if our GDP is X and 20% of a certain gender is not working, but if they were to come in, X will become Y. It's net very, very beneficial to our country. But I don't know the nuances of this, like I can give you like a fleeting comment as somebody sitting on the outside. But if you were to truly ask me why it is the way it is, we can all acknowledge that it's an issue. But I'm not the expert at trying to figure out why that issue has occurred.
So I will tell you one good factoid, which is that traditionally there was a sizable gap between male and female voters, number of people who went out to vote. That gap has now been narrowing. It's been narrowing rapidly, and now it's almost become even Stevens. In fact, I won't be surprised in this election, coming election, if it's not even Stevens, or maybe going ahead, more women will go out to vote. So a lot is changing right now. Shrinkla, pass the mic.
My name is Nikhil Kamath, and I'm a cybersecurity consultant in Bangalore. My question to Shekhar is, since Shekhar mentioned that the more you go higher up, the more lonely you are, and less people tell something to you which you may not like. So you gave an example of Modi. So I want to have a question.
Because that's the highest anybody has gone in India at this point.
So I have a question, like, is it same in the newsroom too? Like, did other news or any of your colleagues give any feedback to you before you wrote that article in 2012 or 13 about VK Singh or about Imran Khan, which got you into trouble? So,
well, first of all, since you asked me, Imran Khan, I didn't write anything. He said something that got him into trouble, right? He said something, it got him into trouble. Then he kept on calling me to say, can you go to court in London? And I will send you a first class ticket. I'll put you up in the Ritz, but just lie there. And lie there saying what? I'm a fan of Imran Khan, the cricketer. I'm no fan of Imran Khan, the politician. I think he just ruined his country, and he's ruined his country's democracy. He's a terrible politician. But will I go and lie? Okay, I might go and lie, but will I go and lie on oath in a court of law saying I misquoted him, right? Even if I wanted to, I could not, because he was on tape, right? So just to give you perspective, in 1993, Imran Khan did an interview with me in London at his little apartment, where he said that is when the ball tampering controversy was going on, and he was under attack. And he said, I'm not attacked by people who are of good quality, people good upbringing. Look at Tony Lewis, look at so and so. These are Oxbridge types. They don't attack me. I'm attacked by people like Ian Botham, Alan Lamb. They are not cultured. I think the exact words he used, you can find it. It's on India Today's website. They are not cultured. They are something. And he said, they are not well educated. They are from the below stairs class. Now, I didn't know what is below stairs class because I wasn't brought up in Britain. Later, then Alan Lamb and Ian Botham both sued Imran for defamation. Now, the British libel law is very tough. It's much tougher than the Indian libel law. So he thought he was going to lose that case. So he was calling me to say if I would go to court and say that I misquoted him, which obviously wasn't going to happen. And then there were cricketers who didn't like him on the Indian side, who were calling me to say, you must go there and say that he actually said it. So let him suffer. So we decided at India Today, Arun Puri and I, that we'll only go if the court summons us. And if we go, we'll tell the truth. And I gave that small tape. Those days we used to have the small tape recorders. I deposited that tape with Arun Puri's office, and that tape should still be sitting there. So this was at below stairs class. Later I figured what is below stairs class. So a traditional British home, even now if you go to an old London home, those homes next to each other, you will find there's a staircase. So in old days, when the upper crust lived in the house, their helpers and servants, they slept under the stairs. So they were called the below stairs class. So that was the story. So that is one. The other story about the army movements of 2012, first of all, every fact in that story is confirmed. It was confirmed even by the general who sent back those units, right? So And what was our story? Our story was that government of India got spooked, right? That something was going on. So no fact is disputed. There's been a lot of discussion on how much play that story got, right? And since 10 years have passed, I usually would not have talked about this because it is the Indian Express's property, right? I stopped working there 10 years back. And they stand by the story. But, on reflection, if it did not have my byline, perhaps the play on page 1 would have been less. It would not have taken all of the front page. But since I had put my byline on a story for the first time ever, right, and I had done it, as I said to people that I've said before, that I only did it because I thought this was the kind of story that will get people into, that will get reporters into trouble. So let me be the hedge. Maybe it wasn't a good decision because I've had my colleagues tell me, I wish they had told me, some more had told me when we were doing it. I've had my colleagues tell me subsequently that maybe it wasn't a good decision because in a publication, when people have grievance with a story or an article, they come to the editor-in-chief. But when the editor-in-chief himself puts his name on an article, who do they go to when they have a grievance? And I take that as valid criticism, and I take that also as a lesson learned. So that answers your question. Now we have some questions from our subscribers, and I'm pleasantly surprised, and that's a complaint that we don't have enough questions from women. But I do find that for Nikhil, there are some questions from women, and they are interesting questions. So Priyanka Bajaj from FHI 360. For someone in their 30s, what investment strategies do you believe are most effective in securing a stable financial future? How can one balance risk and diversification in this context? And let me add one more to this, and that is from Sahana Rai. How does Nikhil Kamath manage his time? You seem to be doing all kinds of things and are everywhere. How do you do it? And I'm adding, do you employ body doubles?
I'm relieved that's the question, but I would say to the first question, investment strategy, the way I like to look at it, might not be right for everyone out there, but I do very top-down stuff. So I will pick a sector I like and then do some public market in there, some private market in there, some moonshot bets, but I stick to sectors. Right now, I'm looking at consumption and energy transition a lot. So by energy transition, it could be solar on a rooftop, it could be storage, batteries, electric vehicles, all of that. Energy at the end tends to be something the rest of the world revolves around in whatever form. And consumption, India, I think, is going in that direction where a significant portion of our GDP is going towards consumption, and I think that will increase. One thing I feel really passionate about, some stuff we have just closed in the last month. We don't have an Indian brand truly that sells outside of India. It could be in fashion, it could be in vehicles. We might have bought something, but I'm talking about a true blue Indian brand. I want to be part of a story which is able to do that. It could be even coffee, it could be anything, but that's something I'm spending time on. To the second part of the question, how I spend my time, pretty standard. I start work 8:30, stock markets and investing in private markets take up most of my day. All the content that we put out is short, 1 day a month. And yeah, evenings I go to the gym, I try to read a book and go to bed. That's it.
Okay. Jaishankar Balasubramaniam, Second Avenue Consulting Private Limited. And it's a good question. Doesn't the availability of easy loans really make people spend more and save less? Because I'm bringing to you the question that I have of banks. I get calls all the time. You have this car, I can give you 15 lakhs against this car. I don't need it. So are we heading for an individual subprime crisis like this? Because people are borrowing when they don't have to.
it is worrying. The government is taking cognizance of this. When you look at especially personal loan borrowing.
Credit card loans also.
Yeah. The number is, especially in the last 5 years, has gone up so much that I think the RBI is clearly making it harder for people to borrow money. They've been working on this for the last couple of months. The one good thing our regulators seem to do is they typically try and fix a problem before it occurs. So right now, as a ratio of GDP, I think we are no longer at the bottom. Our saving rates are down and our lending has gone up considerably. So it is worrying. I hope more is done to curtail it.
Okay. And you are happy that RBI is curtailing it?
I think it's a good thing. I think bringing down leverage in a financial model of any kind is always a good thing.
And particularly for individuals.
Yeah, I feel like the data is very skewed here when you get into it. A lot of the lending in Chinese happens on the shadow side, not on the formal banking sector. So when you compare borrowing as a factor of GDP, even if the ratio looks higher in India, it might actually be higher in China.
Well, China is a debt disaster.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should be competing with China in that area.
Yeah, but the question is, who do we benchmark against? Traditionally, the tendency to culturally save has been very big in India, China, the subcontinent largely. That pattern is changing. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but personal loan and credit card is definitely a bad thing. I don't think anybody is doing well in life borrowing at 15, 20, 25%.
Exactly. That's almost, that is usurious.
Yeah.
Khandarp Khavte, Titan Spear Company Limited. How does the wealth created by the new India unicorns benefit the next small town boy who isn't big on a career? And who isn't big on a career or business built on academic achievements, like Nikhil Kamath? I'm not adding it for exercise.
Well, I guess we all have to pay it forward. The way I look at money is different from the way Shekhar maybe looks at it or the third person does. But I feel like what I have been given by virtue of luck and timing and a bunch of different things will be passed on to somebody else. In my case, more evidently, because I don't really have dependents per se, so all of it will be. And I hope while it is passed on in a manner that is most conducive. We all want to work with people we resonate with. The one person I do resonate with is a young entrepreneur without capital trying to build something in India. At the end of my term here, I feel like I would want for them to benefit from this more than anybody else.
That's good. Question. If you keep your questions short, then we can maybe shoehorn a couple more in, because people must be hungry. People should be hungry by now. And thirsty.
Last question. I'll keep my question very short. My name is Somijit Roy. I'm the founder of Imoha Elder Care, and a company that very fortunate to have Nikhil being part of that as part of an investee firm. My question to Nikhil is, you're 37 and Shekhar is 66. What does the Nikhil 73-year-old tell the Nikhil 37-year-old? That's my first question. The other is, it's very interesting how all senior citizens in the country, the 60,000 seniors we serve, they are hooked on Facebook and hooked on social media. What would be your recommendation to seniors from an investment standpoint? Where would they need to go to when they need investment advice?
Sure. I hope Imoha, since we work together, is able to figure out a solution for them, because this is a large market that needs to be catered to. The first question, what would the 73-year-old version of me in the future tell my past? Is that the question?
Yes. So it's linked to a point that there's something called dying naked, which basically means you do everything that you wanted to do. And when you are at that age and there's nothing that is left to do, you mentioned about, kind of being comfortable, being bored and so on, right? So there's so much to be done ahead. What would be the 73-year-old thinking about the 37-year-old today?
a little tough for me to answer how I might think in the future. Easier to go back in the past. But if I were to wager a guess, I feel when I'm 73 years old, I would wish I spent more time not working, not being shy to express how I truly feel about a certain thing, and be more comfortable with being happy and not judge myself as to if I'm being productive doing a certain thing. I presume that is what I would want to tell myself.
Well, if I could tell you one thing about growing older, it's a genuine user statement, as Americans say. As you grow older, your earlier memories get sharper. So as I've grown older, I remember my childhood much more sharply. Then the periods when I was very busy and working and chasing wars and.
Is it embellished memory or is it?
No, I think it's pretty good. It's
the actual event.
But that's true of many others I know of my vintage or older or thereabouts. That as you grow older, so you might be able to tell more people about what was happening when you were 37,
right?
When you are 73 than now. So.
Yeah.
Your memories will stay with you. That said, now, India, why does India not have big tech stars like Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, etc., etc.?
I feel like the pragmatic answer to that is the amount of money we spend on research and innovation is far inferior to what the West does. Don't hold me to these numbers because I don't know for sure.
No, but that's very true. Even if you go by the percentage of GDP that India spends on science and technology, it's much less than China.
Yeah, I think we spend 0.7%.
Very little.
And the US spends 3.5-4%, and there are
of that economy.
Exactly.
Of that economy.
So if you put in $10 where somebody is putting in $10,000 and wondering why we have lesser innovation, I think it's. But I have a thesis around this. I feel like too much IP concentration is happening in America. Geopolitically, it will start worrying the world at some point in the future. This is just a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if the world and world economies became more fragmented, the opposite of globalization. And people start going the China way where, China had their own Facebook, Google, Instagram, and all of that. We might create our own sub-markets. Even if you go back in time, right? Like when you look at Industrial Revolution, which started in Birmingham, for example, they had to close their market off for a certain period of time to allow for the innovation to be bred in that ecosystem. And
they were a big colonial power, so they could do those things. Today, these are interesting thoughts, and these are worth thinking about. In fact, you set me thinking. You had a conversation with Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Give us some takeaways from that. What struck you the most about him?
I was asking him the same things I ask everybody. What should a young person build around energy transition, artificial intelligence? So the thing with Bill Gates is a couple of years ago, he used to speak a lot about climate. He seems to have pivoted from trying to deal with the symptoms of climate to attacking the disease in itself. And he has that big fund, right? Breakthrough Energy, on energy transition. I was asking him what is looking promising, what is not looking promising. He seems to be really bullish on fission and fusion today. Not like it will happen 30, 40 years down the line, but fusion could be a possibility in, a couple of decades, and not like when our kids are around to see it. The other thing I was asking him is large language models, what are the low-hanging fruits, which use cases can be where you can build upon it to solve very quickly. Surprisingly, he said legal stuff is a big low-hanging fruit for LLMs. Have to explore and figure out what he truly meant by that. Yeah, but stuff like this.
Give me a one-line impression of him.
Bill Gates. So I'm part of that pledge, right?
Yes, I know.
So I spend 4-5 days with him every year in that offsite. I think he is willing to admit fault faster than somebody else in his position, which is appealing about him. He might throw all of his energy behind a certain idea, notion, problem, solution, but he will realize quickly it is not working or it might be wrong, and he will pivot. I think that is the most impressive thing about him.
Any last questions? Okay. Ma'am, you, and I think we can take only one more because I know hunger and thirst are real factors.
Hi, I'm Rupa. Shekhar ji, big fan of yours and Off the Cuff, and Nikhil, big fan of the WTF series, and it's really a treasure trove of many topics, right? So we follow it very closely. Just one question, keeping the demography of India in mind, do you think that financial literacy should be taught early on to kids? And another question is, women in most families know the least about the finances in their home, right? So your thoughts on these?
I agree with both, and we are attempting to do that by putting out content on finance for free online so everybody can access it. But I agree with you 100%. We teach kids for 15 years how to earn a wage by getting a job, but we don't spend any of that time telling them how to invest and do what to do with that money. So I think it is very relevant, yeah.
That one gentleman there, and I really think we should stop after that. Unless Nikhil, you want to say something or you want to?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Shekhar and Nikhil. So it's more of a comment, and I'm tying up just before this. You were, talking about, let's say, that India at this point in time, we do not have too much of R&D innovation in high tech.
Into the microphone, please.
Yeah. So at this point in time, and we are saying that we are behind, let's say, West or China, in terms of the too much of innovation happening in R&D and let's say high tech. Now I was just, and you had you have done an amazing job of, let's say, starting up where you fund people below the age of 22. Now, from whatever I, understand, that to really get into high tech, we need more PhDs, and not just PhDs who just produce, dissertation for the sake of dissertation and passing, but to really fund those type of people who can actually put their number of years, and then only we would have something like a LLM. I mean, today, let's say, we talk about ChatGPT and everything. Now, of course, Bill Gates, you are an exception. You was a college dropout, you are a school dropout.
Thank you for putting me in the same category. I wish I was in it. So definitely it is.
He got his epiphany even earlier than Bill Gates.
So the point is, and I'm not saying that, you have to take care of everything that's, in India, but something to think about, that our real investment really needs to go into the post-graduations and the PhDs, which will actually set us up for producing IP of our own.
Yeah. I have a totally contrarian belief on this. I feel like we should all stop worrying about graduation, the word PhD, and somebody awarding you a doctorate and all of that. I want education to be truly democratic. Anybody should be able to learn anything, and everything should be accessible to anyone without the need for physical infra or a teacher who is a person even. That, I think, is a big leveler. And I hope the world gets there someday, or at least India does.
Last question from me. Compare Bengaluru, I have to be careful, with San Francisco Bay Area.
I was hoping you say Bombay or Delhi, then I could have given you dirt.
I will come to Bombay and Delhi. Because that's how we started. I conclude like that.
I feel at the end of the day, a city is not about roads, it's not about traffic, it's not about the politics, it's not about the infrastructure, it's not about any of these things. A city is the people who live there, how they think, how they interact, what they believe in. That in Bangalore, I love so much and resonate with that so much. I don't think anything compares with that, nor does SF or Delhi or Bombay or Hyderabad or any of these cities. I will never trade Bangalore for any other city. I might be able to move to Bombay one day and there is zero traffic, and here I have to spend 3 hours in traffic every day. I don't care. I think that sentiment and the group of people, I'm not talking about 10, 20 people, the hundreds of people I know here, I don't think there's any replacement for that.
But when it comes to, say, innovation, just the creative stuff happening, how big is the gap?
Big. If you go to any place where young people hang out in Bangalore, people are typically talking about what startup to build, how to get funding, which idea, even if it were to plagiarize a Western idea here. They're thinking from a very young entrepreneur for the first time perspective. It's completely different in Delhi and Bombay. Delhi is more about, I'm not going to give you the cliche Mera Baap and all that. I'm not going to go there. But Delhi is a lot about lineage. I feel like it's significantly older money. So people are talking about what their grandparents were doing 50 years ago and taking great pride in that. Here, everyone's new, Most people here started from scratch in Bangalore, at least the affluent Bangaloreans of today. And because they made it in this generation, I feel like they don't hold on to it too much. It doesn't define them in a manner that somebody in Delhi would be defined.
And Bombay? Mumbai?
Yeah, Mumbai I think is different in its own way. What I find, I would hate to say something bad about a city, but people are running in Mumbai a lot of the time in a very chaotic manner. I don't know if it is net more productive or not, but people are constantly running in Mumbai. Yeah.
So I will tell you something that I once wrote because I just happened to be in Bengaluru that day, and like today it was a Friday, so I had to write something, my weekly column, and I didn't have anything to write. And that was a year of very bad, very delayed monsoon in the north, and it began to rain in Bengaluru, and I felt so happy that I did write a column, my weekly column, that said that Americans give their cities names. Chicago is the Windy City, New York is the Big Apple, Virginia is for lovers. So if we give names to our cities, what will be called? Bangalore. And I said, we'll call Bangalore the feel-good city. And this was written about 20 years back. So, and Bangalore, I would say, has become Bengaluru, but it has lived up to the promise. And in the process, you must have been 17 at that point, if you're 37 now. And you personify the success story of Bengaluru. And there's a long way to go. Thank you very much for so much patience, and thank you all. You've been patient. There is some drink and something to munch outside, so please don't go away. Please stay with us.
The Print Off the Cuff. Celebrations partner Paul John Visitor Center. Hospitality partner Four Seasons Hotel Bengaluru. Associate partner Teamology.